There are so many speed boosters out there, all from different manufacturers, but which one do you buy? So in today's video, I'm going to compare 3 different speed boosters that I own, and we're going to see which one we think is better. Let's take a look. Now, first things first, why would you want a speed booster in the first place? Well, just to sum things up, these speed boosters are available for a range of different mirrorless cameras, and what they do for your sensor is create a wider field of view. They let more light into the sensor, and that will give you a shallow depth of field. So if you have a 1.4 lens, that will allow you to go down to f1.0 or f1.1, and it brings your APS-C sensor more closer to a full frame look. So if that's something that interests you, then these speed boosters are definitely going to bring you a new look for your camera. Now later on in this video, we're going to do some guessing games. I'm going to record a few clips, and I'm going to do A, B, and C, and you're going to have to guess which one you think is which speed booster. And if you're having a hard time guessing, then that's a good signal that it doesn't really matter which speed booster you get. Now currently I have 3 different speed boosters in my hand. This one right here is the first one I ever purchased. It's a generic speed booster, meaning it has no name, it's no branded. Now the reason that this is the cheapest of them all is because there's no electronic contacts. You can't use autofocus or stabilization from your electronic lens. So this thing is just a basic adapter. So if you're someone who has a lot of vintage glass and you don't really care for autofocus and stuff like that, then this one right here will come in real handy. The build quality of this generic speed booster also feels good. It doesn't feel too cheap. I mean, it's got a little metal attachment. It feels very solid in hand. Really happy with the build quality of this one right here. Now there's no tripod support for this adapter, and the problem is if you're using a telephoto lens with this speed booster, you're most likely going to get a bit of a tilt or a bit of a tip because there is no tripod support for this adapter. Alright, so next up is the Viltrox Speedbooster. This thing has autofocus as well as lens stabilization support. So if you're using a Canon 24-105, you're going to get the stabilization. It's going to work really, really well. Also, the autofocus performance of the Viltrox is fantastic. I would say it's on par with the Metabones Speedbooster because I've tested these two and I can't see the difference in autofocus speed, so that's good to know. Now the Viltrox also supports firmware updates, so this is really good to know that if Viltrox has firmware updates to improve the performance of this adapter, that is possible in comparison to the generic speed booster, which doesn't really have any support at all. But in general, feeling the quality of these two, I do feel like the generic one, the basic adapter, has just a bit better build quality. It feels a bit more heavier and a bit more well made in comparison to the Viltrox, which feels a bit plasticky. And lastly, for this comparison, we'll be comparing the Metabones Speed Booster. Now, this has everything that the Viltrox has. It's got the lens IS support, has electronic contacts, as well as USB support for future firmware updates. So extremely similar to the Viltrox. What's the difference? In terms of the build quality, I find that the Metabones Speed Booster has the better build quality than the Viltrox and the generic Speed Booster. It's got a nice metal front mount and back mount. It just looks and feels premium. Now in terms of price, the generic speed booster cost me $90. The Viltrox over here cost me $150. And lastly, the Metabones speed booster right here cost me around $800. Why the heck would I spend that much? It's because I love the EOS M so much and I really enjoyed using the Viltrox, and I just was urging to see what the quality was like with the Metabones speed booster. Now this generic speed booster was the first one I ever owned, and I have to say I'm really impressed with the performance, especially if you own vintage glass. These two just go so well together. You get that helios-like swirl on the sides. Go ahead and check the description below. I'll leave a video that I shot with this speed booster. It was one of my first ever videos with this generic adapter, and I've got to say I was really pleased with the performance. Alright, so for this test, I'll be comparing the bokeh, the corner detail, the sharpness, the flare, as well as just the general look of these speed boosters. And to help me out with this test, I've brought in a few figures that you guys might know, and these guys are going to help us compare these speed boosters. Let's go take a look. Alright guys, so that concludes the test. Were you surprised with the results? Did anything stick out to you? Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Personally, I'm really happy with the generic adapter, especially if you have vintage glass and you don't care for autofocus. But if you do care for autofocus and stabilization, then the Viltrox would be my bet. For me, I wouldn't buy the Metabones. I would stay away from it, and I'm personally thinking about selling it. So thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this video. Hopefully this video has helped you out in choosing which speed booster is right for you. Personally, I think the Viltrox is probably the best of both worlds. It's got the autofocus, the manual focus, it's got the stabilization that you can use from lenses, and just in general, it's a great performance for the price. So if you found this video helpful, click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.